Welcome back. Wow, it's been a little while, hasn't it? About 3 weeks. Piu and I, that's short for Priel, my wife, went to Darjeeling and Gangtok, Sikkim. Darjeeling, West Bengal, Gangtok, Sikkim, up in northeast India. It was a very beautiful thing. I will get to the reading very shortly. Really quickly, for those of you on YouTube, go ahead and click here. If this is your first time seeing me, that'll start you at the beginning of the Tipiṭaka. And for those of you listening on the podcast, just bear with me for the next couple minutes. It's going to be mostly visual. I recommend if you have the opportunity, do check out the beginning of episode 7 on YouTube, because it'll be fun. We're back with our special guest, Lord Buddha, as this is early Buddhism, pre-sectarian, early Theravada. But in honor of our recent trip to Darjeeling, it's just going to switch the dial on over to Vajrayana. So here we have a rock. That is a rock. Oh, sorry, went a little too far. Here we have, you remember from last time, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. And only one of them, if you recall, was able to do that little trick, Akshobhya, very good Akshobhya. And the rest of them were not. Thank you. But on the trip, the others did learn how to do it. For example, Amitabha, very nice, very nice. Now here you can see Amitabha wearing red, and notice his hands are like this in his lap. Now, sometimes Shakyamuni Buddha is depicted like this with his hands in his lap, but this one is Amitabha. And if I'm not mistaken, the one that I identified as Chinese Buddha in the second part of the that one. The second part of the Tipiṭaka is also Amitabha Buddha. Okay, thank you, Amitabha. We'll move through this kind of quickly. Let's see, what order did we go in last time? I believe next up was not Radha Sambhava, Amoghasiddhi. Yes, here is Amoghasiddhi diverting all of our expectations. That's not the right word. Well, anyway, normally you would expect Amoghasiddhi to be green of skin, or at least wearing green. But here he is with, I believe, his begging bowl in this mudra. This is the book that's used by everybody who runs a Tibetan and Nepali shop, where they sell statues in Darjeeling. And so yeah, here you have Akshobhya. Anyway, now, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I found him at a Nepali shop. See, there it is. Shout out to my man Deepak. Hope you're enjoying the show. Yes, that was where we were able to find Akshobhya, and he runs a shop that was run by his grandfather, I believe, if not his great-grandfather, back near Mount Everest, but then there was a natural disaster, so now he runs it in Darjeeling. The others, for example, Amitabha, if I recall correctly, was run by a shop that was run by a Muslim family in Darjeeling. I believe they were from Delhi, but you could tell by the name of the shop that, okay, these guys are Muslims and they're dressed, selling Buddhist things. All right, I don't judge. That's fine. And then the others, thank you, Akshobhya. Vairochana. The others were from a shop run by Sikh Punjabis from Delhi. Real quick, this one, yes, the one we're using for Amitabha is also, I mean, the one we're using for Mahayana is also a form of Amitabha, and that was from the shop that's run by the Punjabi family from Delhi. Anyway, so yeah, where were we? Vairochana is white of skin, or at least white in clothing, and it's close. It's close. Whitish, right? And finally, thank you, Vairochana. Finally, we have Ratnasambhava. The only thing is that's not Ratnasambhava. That is Medicine Buddha. And it's an error that is made in this book, an error that is made by the Exotic India store on Amazon, as you can see in his brass form. Yes. He also he has a plant. See that plant growing next to him? Yes. So okay. Yes. You can see up close. Yeah, that plant growing next to him means that is Medicine Buddha. But he has his hand like this in the symbol of charity, bestowal, like that. Where Ratnasambhava, thank you, has his hand, forward, touching the ground. Oops, sorry about that. You might have seen in Little Buddha with Keanu Reeves this scene.
The earth is my witness.
So that's what this is in reference to, the symbol of witness. The earth is my witness. When he was dealing with Mara. So this might be, this might actually be Shakyamuni Buddha. In other words, Gautama Buddha. Buddha. Buddha, same guy. But the actual Akshobhya has a Vajra, or a Dorja in his hand. Yeah, that's the gang, and their new abilities to change form. And I was looking all over for a Ratnasambhava, with his hands in the appropriate position with the symbol of bestowal or charity, either of yellow skin or wearing yellow. And I looked everywhere, but I was able to find one, and I painted it last night. That's what you're seeing right there. Okay, so enough silliness. Shall we get back to the... by the way, for the one with Akshobhya, with Ashoka up here, that's Theravada, as in like later Theravada, not early Buddhism, pre-sectarian, but later sectarian Theravada. This is Maitreya, not to be confused with the speaker at the beginning of the Lotus Sutra, unless he eventually evolves and becomes the Buddha yet to come. So Maitreya is the Buddha yet to come. He's due to come around the 3400s, if you take the Buddha comes every 4,000 years thing literally. And I have him here representing later Theravada, since he is the only bodhisattva recognized by Theravada, but not until the 3rd century Common Era. So that's a nice illustration of the difference between, as they say, Theravada and early Buddhism, or Theravada and early Theravada. So now we're back on track, and we can get to the reading, shall we? You can see I'm rocking the 8 auspicious symbols. Got this Tibetan cup at a store run by a Chinese family. So there's a lot of people from different places in the world running Tibetan shops in Darjeeling, India. I did not see anyone from Tibet running a shop from Darjeeling, India, but it doesn't mean they're not there. It just means I didn't see them. Okay, let's get to it, shall we? Now, if you remember, last time in episode 6, at the very end, they were talking about opponents of monks, and that's kind of an interesting idea, because is that a spiritual thing or a literal thing? Are people who are like, oh, you're a monk, huh? Well, what about this decomposing corpse? Are you going to have sex with it? Hmm? Or does that mean people, like jokesters, bullies or something? Like, oh, I bet you can't resist this. Or, spiritual, like a spiritual opponent of monks, like that just sort of cause a drunk woman to come into their view and pass out there on the ground. Maybe both, maybe one or the other, I'm not sure. It doesn't say. So yeah, at the end of episode 6, it says, if a monk agrees to application, insertion, remaining inserted or pulling out with their male organ, just to be clear, of a female, whether she's awake or asleep or drunk or dead and decomposed, or dead and partially decomposed, or dead and not decomposed. Sorry, it's just, this is what it says. Then the monk is defeated. He's no longer a monk. Even if he doesn't agree to application, whatever that means, or insertion or remaining, but only agrees to pulling out. If all he does is pull it out, but he doesn't put it in, then he's still expelled from the Buddhist order. And if you're wondering how the heck a person might be able to do that, you're not alone. So in this next part, it says here that this is all repeated for non-human females, female animals, human, non-human, animal hermaphrodites, human, non-human, animal eunuchs, so both genders, no genders, or human men, non-human males, and male animals. So it covers all the bases, so there's no confusion. A watermelon, you could probably get away with, but not any of these. Okay, so continuing with the reading. Opponents of monks, having brought a human woman into a monk's presence, associate his male organ at the 3 places. I'll give you a minute. 3 places. Human woman. Got it? Okay. We're all on the same page? Do I need to spell it out? Okay. Anyway, yes. At the 3 places, the woman being covered, the monk being uncovered, the woman uncovered, the monk covered, the woman covered, the monk covered, the woman uncovered, the monk uncovered, with dots in between. So there's like, if it's any of that going on, so if, basically if monks are coming, okay, but yeah, I did do that, but she was covered up. Or I did do that, but I was covered. So Buddha's covering all of his bases here, just so there's no confusion. If he agrees to its application, its entry, to its remaining, to taking out, there is an offense involving defeat. If not, there is no offense. Opponents of monks, ... a human woman, awake, asleep, dead but practically decomposed, involving defeat, dead but practically decomposed, the woman being covered, the monk being uncovered, both being uncovered. If he agrees, there is a grave offense. If not, there is no offense. Now there's dots in between, so it's explaining. I'm just leaving it out. I mean, they're leaving it out. But the original Tipiṭaka, presumably there was page after page of if he puts it in, if he leaves it out, and and so on and so forth. All right. All of this is repeated for non-human female, female animal, human, non-human, and animal hermaphrodite, human, non-human, and animal eunuchs, human males, non-human males, and male animals. Okay. Then it says Vin, Roman numeral 3, lowercase, right? 32 to 33. 2 symbols that I've never seen before. 5, 6 are repetitions of the 2 symbols I've never seen before. 3, 4, but reading opponents of monks having brought a human into the presence of a human woman. Okay, so, right. Yes. having brought a monk. Oh, okay. So just to clear up any confusion about, but sir, they didn't bring the dead woman into my presence. They brought me into the presence of the dead woman. And you said that if they bring them, so he's saying, yeah, no, it doesn't matter who's brought into the presence of who. If you put it in, you're out, right? Okay. There's no more loopholes. The monkey loophole is closed and all other possible loopholes are closed, right? Okay. Inasmuch as opponents of monks have been explained, so should be explained opponents as kings, opponents as thieves, opponents as scoundrels, opponents as the scent of lotuses, in quotes. Right? Covered has been commented upon. Okay. He lets the way enter by the way. There is an offense involving defeat. He lets what is not the way enter by the way. There is an offense involving defeat. All right. He lets the way enter by what is not the way. There is an offense involving defeat. He lets what is not the way enter by what is not the way. There is a grave offense. Do you guys know what he's talking about? Do please comment below. A monk commits sin sleeping with a monk. But sir, he was a monk though. It was just two monks. Okay. Anyway, awakened, he agrees, both should be expelled. Both monks. Awakened, he agrees, both should be expelled. Awakened, he does not agree. The defiler should be expelled. So if a monk has non-consensual intercourse with another monk, then the monk who was saying no and or asleep doesn't get expelled. Right. That sounds reasonable, doesn't it? I wonder if it's going to get to... yes, this is almost finished. Oh, we're going to get back to the monkey. Good. Okay. Anyway, a monk commits sin with a sleeping novice. Awakened, he agrees. Both should be expelled. Awakened, he does not agree. The defiler should be expelled. Right? A novice commits sin with a sleeping monk. Awakened, he agrees. Both should be expelled. You're right. Yes. A novice commits sin with a sleeping novice. Awakened, he agrees. Both should be expelled. Otherwise, the defiler should be expelled. If one is ignorant, if one has not agreed, if one is mad, unhinged, afflicted with pain, or a beginner, there is no offense. Loophole. Just pretend you're crazy. Okay. Told is the recital on covering. Okay. All right, now we're going to move on to something else. The female monkey and sons of the Vajins, a householder and a naked one, adherents of another sect. Oh, by the way, there's an interesting video. Hi, Robbie, if you're watching. Robbie sent me this interesting video. Not right now, but maybe when this video is finished, check that out. It's about the third surviving ascetic religion established in the 6th century BC, assuming you count Jainism as having been established in the 6th century BC and not according to their narrative, more ancient than history. If the 24th Tirthankara of Jainism is the founder of Jainism, right? Then that makes sense. Otherwise, it doesn't. Check out that video and ponder if that means that my whole theory about Buddha having been a practicing Jainist is now disproven. And I will let you know my thoughts in episode 8 of Tipiṭaka. But later. Okay. Put a pin in that. Right. The female monkey, it bears being repeated. The female monkey and the sons of the Vajins, a householder and a naked one, adherents of another sect, the girl and Upalavana, then two about characteristics. Mother, daughter, and sister and wife, supple, pendant. Must be a British thing. 2 sores, S-O-R-E-S. All right. Even if you're not a monk, stay away from sores, would be my advice. And a plaster decoration, unless it means something that anyway. And a wooden doll. Buddha didn't say that you couldn't. 5 with Sundara, as there's only 1 episode recount. Okay, anyway, I just thought I'd check the footnote, but it's saying, we don't know. I don't know. 5 with Sundara, 5 about cemeteries, bones. Is this going to start making sense at some point? So far, it's been 1 sentence. A female Naga and a female Yaka. Is that like a yak god or something? And a female Peta, P-E-T-A, right? A eunuch, impaired, he touched. Still 1 sentence. In Bhadiya, the man perfected, asleep, then 4 on Savati, 3 on Vesali, garlands, the Barukacha monk in his dream, Subhaba Sada, a nun, a female probationer, and a female novice, a prostitute, a eunuch, a householder, one another, one who had gone forth when old, a deer, D-E-E-R. End of sentence. It was a list of things. Maybe one of the monks score, is anyway. Now at that time, what time? A certain monk committed fornication with a female monkey. Yes, we heard. On account of this, he was remorseful. Oh, it's a different monk. Okay. He said, quote, "The course of training has been made known by the Lord. I hope that I have not fallen into an offense of entailing defeat." He told this matter to the Lord. Quote, "You, monk, have fallen into an offense entailing defeat." End quote, he said. Now, at that time, a great company of monks, dwellers in Vesali, and of the Vaji clan, not disavowing the training and not declaring their weakness, indulged in sexual intercourse, like you do. On account of this, they were remorseful and said, quote, "The course of training has been made known by the Lord. Let us hope that we have not fallen into an offense entailing defeat." They told this matter to the Lord. ... quote, ... So there's stuff written there that they didn't want to put in here because it would make the book too thick, I guess. "You, monks, have fallen into an offense entailing defeat." End quote, he said. Wasn't that the same situation that came up where he said, okay, you can take this vow but not that vow or whatever? I don't remember. Anyway. Oh, that was self-abusers, right? Anyway. Now, at that time, a certain monk saying, quote, "There will be no offense for me," end quote, committed sexual intercourse wearing the characteristic white dress of a layman. On account of this, he was remorseful. ... quote, ... defeat, end quote, he said. So it's the same stuff that happened before. So, yes, he says, the course of training has been made known by the Lord. I hope that I have not fallen into an offense involving defeat. And the Buddha replied, you, monk, have fallen into an offense entailing defeat. I'll just refer back to that when they do this funny thing with the dots. Anyway, now at that time, a certain monk saying, quote, "There will be no offense for me," end quote, clad in a kusa grass garment, clad in ... clad in a bark garment, clad in a garment of wood shavings. Okay, so it's the same thing coming up. He had sexual intercourse, but he was wearing these clothes. And then he was wearing those clothes. A different monk, presumably. And he said, I hope I didn't fall into an offense involving defeat. And Lord Buddha, in his wisdom, said, yes, you have. Now get out. Right? Clad in a garment of wood shavings, clad in a hair blanket, clad in a blanket. I can understand why they went with the dots. I can. A blanket made of horsehair, clad in a dress of owl's wings. Okay. Clad in a cloak made of strips of a black antelope's hide. Aren't they supposed to be like vegans? Or vegetarians, excuse me. Indulged in sexual intercourse. You can't tell an Indian to not use ghee. So, yeah, I don't think veganism will ever really get going here. Anyway, indulged in sexual intercourse. On account of this, he was remorseful, Buddha said, entailing defeat, with a lot of dots in between. I think you get the idea. Okay, next. Now, at one time, a certain monk, as he was wandering for alms, seeing a little girl, really, we're going here? Okay, Buddha, okay. Lying on her back, was enamored of her and said, made his thumb enter her and she died. Okay, I'm just going to keep reading and pretend that didn't happen. On account of this, he was remorseful. Monk, there is an offense involving defeat. There is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order, he said. So, okay, he went to the Buddha and said, Lord Buddha, I saw this, I did this, that happened. I hope that I'm not going to be defeated. And Buddha said, yeah, you're defeated, and we have to have another meeting. Okay. Now, at one time, a certain Brahmin youth was in love with the nun Upalavana. Oh, love. Then this Brahmin youth, Brahmins, right? When the nun Upalavana had gone into the village for alms, entered the hut and sat down, concealed. The nun Upalavana, after the meal, and when she had finished eating, washing her feet, and entering the hut, sat down upon the couch. Then the Brahmin youth, taking up the nun Upalavana, assaulted her. That's not how Brahmins should express their love to nuns. Or anybody should express anything to anyone. Anyway, the nun that's my little commentary. Yeah, I do commentary sometimes. Anyway, the nun Upalavana told this matter to the nuns. The nuns told this matter to the monks. The monks told this matter to the Lord. Sort of that St. Paul chain of command, it seems. He said, there is no offense, monks, as she was not willing. Okay. That was a good call, Buddha. Thank you. All right. I was worried I wouldn't be able to call myself a Buddhist after this. Anyway, okay. Now, at one time, the sign of a woman appeared to a monk. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, monks, I allow a teacher to meet with the nuns during the rains. As for the upasampada ordination, so as in the presence of nuns to turn the nuns away from those offenses which they have in common with the monks, but in those offenses of monks which are offenses not in common with the monks, there is no offense for the nuns. Okay. So if nuns do something naughty that men cannot do, then it's fine. It's none of our business. I like it. He was like 2,600 years ahead of his time, I'd say. Maybe even 2,622 years. If you know what I'm saying. Yes. So, okay. Now, at the time, the sign of a male appeared to a nun. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, quote, monks, I allow a teacher to meet with the monks during the rains. As for the upasampada ordination, so as in the presence... I wish they would explain the upa... It's like I already have to know what they're talking about before page 1 of the very first book of Buddhism? Nah. Anyway, I guess I could Google it, couldn't I? Google that, Edward, would you? Tell us next time what it means. So, as in the presence of monks, to turn the monks away from those offenses which they have in common with the nuns, but in those offenses of nuns which are offenses not in common with the monks, there is no offense for the monks. Did that make sense to you guys? Edward, listen to that 20 times in slow motion and tell us in the next episode what it meant. Okay, so far we've got 2 things from this whole book, except for that the intro of this section where it just listed off a whole bunch of a female monkey, the sons of the Vajins. What is all this? A sister, a daughter, a wife, a female yak. What? Okay, anyway. Now, at that time, a certain monk thinking, quote, there will be no offense for me, end quote, indulged in sexual intercourse with his mother, his daughter, his sister. On account of this, he was remorseful. There's dots involved, but I think we all kind of know what's going on here. He told this matter to the Lord, who said, you, monk, have fallen into an offense involving defeat. End quote. Now, at that time, a certain monk indulged in sexual intercourse with his former wife. Didn't we learn from the lesson of good old, what's his name? You remember good old Sudina. The something. Well, anyway. Okay. Yes. On account of this, he was remorseful, ... and Buddha said ... involving defeat. I hate the dots. I'm just going to say it. I hate the dots. Anyway, now, at that time, a certain monk had a supple back, tormented by chafing. He took hold of his own male organ. On account of this, he was remorseful. Buddha said, you are defeated. So if those other monks weren't abusing themselves in that way, I don't know what they were doing. All right. I'm doing my best, guys. I'm doing my best. I'm just reading the words. At some point, hopefully someone will explain in a future book that we read, or, at some point I'll talk to someone who's an expert in these things, and I'll say, I have some questions. They'll be like, these are your questions. Anyway, okay. So a monk grabbed hold of his own male organ and was defeated. You're not allowed to do that if you're a monk. You can do it, obviously, but these guys couldn't. Okay. Now, at that time, a certain male monk was able to bend down his male organ. Tormented by chafing, he committed a perversion. Bend down the organ or bend down to his organ? You decide, right? On account of this, he was remorseful. He said, "O Lord Buddha, I hope I haven't committed an offense involving defeat." Lord Buddha replied, "You have committed an offense involving defeat." See, I filled in that where the dots were, more or less. Now, at that time, a certain monk saw a dead body, and on the body was a sore. Oh, I was wondering if they were going to get into... He, thinking, there will be no offense for me, had illicit relations. On account of this, he was remorseful, and he said, "Lord Buddha, I did it with a sore of a dead body, and I hope I haven't been defeated." And the Buddha said, "You're defeated." And then there's a little asterisk, another case of this sort. Similar. Different kind of sore. I don't know. They didn't want to translate it. They're British. What can you do? Now, At that time, a certain monk, inflamed, had illicit relations with a plaster decoration. Oh, maybe the watermelon is out too. On account of this, he was remorseful, said, Lord Buddha, I did it with a statue. And Lord Buddha said, Monk, it is not an offense involving defeat. It is an offense of wrongdoing. Oh, you can still be a monk after you have sexual intercourse with a plaster decoration. But you did a naughty thing. What's the penalty for wrongdoing? Now, at that time, a certain monk inflamed, does that mean erect, had illicit relations with a wooden doll. Splitters, buddy. On account of this, he was remorseful. He said, Buddha, I hope I didn't get kicked out. And Buddha said, I'm not going to kick you out, but it was wrong. It was wrong, so wrong. But you can remain a monk. Okay. Any more examples? Now, at that time, the monk called Sudara, who had gone forth from Rajagaha, was walking along a carriage road. A certain woman said, quote, Wait, honored sir, for a moment. I will pay homage to you. End quote. As she was paying homage, she held up his inner garment and took hold of his male organ. On account of this, he was remorseful. And he said, Lord Buddha, I hope I didn't commit an offense involving defeat. Lord Buddha said, Monk, did you agree? I did not agree, Lord, he said. There is no offense, monk, as you did not agree. Lord Buddha, acknowledging that men too can be raped. 2,600 years ago. All right, I am a Buddhist. I like it. I mean, this is all that stuff that they call Buddhism. I won't say made up, but inspired, divined, and written down by people who did not know the Buddha. This is the Buddha. Pretty freaking woke, if you ask me. Anyway, yes. Now, at one time, a certain woman, seeing a monk, spoke thus, quote, Come, honored sir, indulge in sexual intercourse. End quote. Not so, sister. That is not proper for me. He replied, Come, honored sir, I will exert myself. Do not you exert yourself. So she'll be on top, basically. Thus, there will be no offense for you. End quote. The monk acted accordingly. On account of this, he was remorseful and said, Lord Buddha, I did a naughty thing, but I was just laying there and she did all the work. And Buddha replied, can you guess? There is an offense involving defeat. You're out of here, buddy. Close that loophole. All right. Let's continue. Now at that time, a certain woman, seeing a monk, spoke thus, quote, Come, honored sir, indulge in sexual intercourse. Not so, sister, that is not proper for me. Come, honored sir, you exert yourself, I will not exert myself. Thus there will be no offense for you. The monk said, that sounds reasonable. You just lay there. I mean, Buddha already covered dead bodies. You really think that if a woman plays dead, that the Buddha's going to go, oh, well, if she wasn't moving. Right. The monk acted accordingly. On account of this, he was remorseful and was kicked out of the order. All right. There's dots. I'll just move along. Now, at that time, a certain woman, seeing a monk, spoke thus. Come, honored sir, ... not proper for me. Right? Come, honored sir, touching the inner parts, discharge semen. touching the outer parts, discharge semen. Thus, there will be no offense for you. Oh, yeah, what? That sound... Oh. But they already covered grabbing your own... He got kicked out. That guy got kicked out for grabbing his own male organ. I think she's suggesting you touch me and then... Anyway, okay, so the monk acted accordingly, So, this came up a lot, I think. In the 300 or 400 or 500 monks, this came up a lot. All right. On account of this, he was remorseful, said Buddha, I touched her inner parts and discharged semen, then I touched her outer parts and discharged semen. I hope I didn't get kicked out of the order. And he said, you did. You're out of here, buddy. End quote. All right. Now, at one time, a certain monk going to a cemetery and seeing a body not yet decomposed, indulged in sexual intercourse with it. On account of this, he was remorseful, said Buddha, is that okay? He covered this already. Buddha said, you're out of here. You're done, buddy. Pack your stuff. Go back to your home. You're not a monk anymore. Yes. Pārājika. You are pārājikad, right? Defeated. Okay. Now at that time, a certain monk going to a cemetery, seeing a body which was practically decomposed, also got kicked out of the order for having sex with it. We'll just skip to the chase. Now, at a certain time, a monk going to the cemetery, seeing a body which was practically decomposed, got kicked out of the order for having sex with it. Now, at that time, a certain monk going to a cemetery and seeing a decapitated head behaved wrongly, touching its mouth. On account of this, he was remorseful. And Buddha said, you, monk, have fallen into an offense involving defeat. Now, at that time, a certain monk going to a cemetery and seeing a decapitated head behaved wrongly, but not touching its mouth. On account of this, he was remorseful. Monk, there is no offense involving defeat. There is an offense of wrongdoing. So you are allowed to, as the kids say, whack off. Is it okay to say that on here, on this program? While looking at a severed head. That's okay. It's not great, but you're not going to get kicked out of the order for it, is what this seems to say. But if you touch its mouth, there's a problem. More than one problem. Probably want to go to the doctor after a week or so. Now, at that time, a certain monk was in love with a certain woman. She died, and her bones were thrown into the charnel ground and scattered. Then the monk, going to the cemetery, collected the bones and behaved in an unsuitable way. On account of this, he was remorseful and said, Buddha, I hope I didn't get thrown out. And Buddha said, monk, there is no offense involving defeat. There is an offense of wrongdoing. Another loophole. Okay, now, at that time, a certain monk indulged in sexual intercourse with a female naga. That's a snake. With a female yaka, with a female departed one. Ooh, let's check the footnote on that. It's not approached, but the PTs live in mansions. The demerit of these matures in the half dark of the month, but in the light of... Yeah, anyway. Okay, I don't know. Right. With a eunuch, on account of this, he was remorseful, and Buddha said, you're out of here, buddy. Now, at that time, a certain monk's faculties were impaired, saying, I feel neither ease nor discomfort. Thus, there will be no offense for me. He indulged in sexual intercourse. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, monks, whether this foolish man felt or did not feel, there is an offense involving defeat. End quote. Now, at that time, a certain monk saying, I will indulge in sexual intercourse with a woman, end quote, was conscience-stricken at the mere touch. Monk, there is no offense involving defeat. There is an offense of entailing a formal meeting of the order. So, okay, I think if I recall correctly from just things that I remember reading about, hearing about, in other contexts, the formal meeting means all the monks get together and the person has to, the Buddha says, did you do this? And the person says, yes. And Buddha says, are you sorry you did it? Yeah, I'm really sorry. And Buddha's like, okay, don't do this. Everybody, see this monk? Remember his face? That is the face of a weirdo, but he's going to stay. We're not kicking him out. But everybody should giggle when he walks by. All right? That's the formal meeting. So it's like public shaming sort of punishment. If I recall correctly. Comment below if I'm not understanding this correctly or maybe putting it in the wrong sort of way, with the wrong emphasis. Now at that time a certain monk was lying down in the Jatiya grove at Bhadiya, having gone there for the day's sojourn. All his limbs were stiff, all of them, with pain. A certain woman, seeing him, sat down on him, and having taken her pleasure, departed. The monks, seeing that he was wet, told this matter to the Lord. He said, oh Lord, I hope I didn't get kicked out. And the Lord said, monks, this monk is a man perfected. Monks, there is no offense for this monk. What? What? Okay, now at that time a certain monk was laying down, having gone to the dark wood at Savatthi for the day's sojourn. A certain woman cowherd, seeing him, sat down on him. The monk consented. On account of this he was remorseful. You, monk, have fallen into an offense involving defeat. So he didn't consent in the first one? His limbs were stiff with pain. So, right, okay. I guess he didn't consent. He was laying there oh, it's hurting, ouch. And then she came and did her thing and left. And Buddha said he is perfected. Perfect. He is a perfect monk because he laid there in pain while a woman came and... Okay. Lord Buddha, forgive me, but I'm a little confused about that last one. Okay. Now, at that time, I'm going a little late, I know. I'm toying with the idea of making these episodes a little longer. Plus, I'm hoping we eventually move on to... Yes, we're going to move on pretty soon. Cool. To another topic. I'll finish this topic just so we can look forward to talking about something else next time. This has gone on for a little while, hasn't it? Yes. Now at that time, a certain monk was lying down, having gone to the dark wood at Savatthi for the day's sojourn. A certain woman cowherd. Did we read this already? Yes. Now at that time, a certain monk, at Savatthi, a certain woman cowherd seeing him. I guess this happened a lot. A certain woman gathered firewood seeing him. A certain woman gathered cow dung seeing him. Sat down on him. Apparently he gave consent. I don't know, because the dots won't tell me. I'm only going to assume that because he was defeated and kicked out of the order. Right. Now, at one time a certain monk was lying down, having gone into the great wood at Vesali for the day's sojourn. A certain woman, seeing him, sat down on him, and having taken her pleasure, stood laughing nearby. The monk, waking up, that's why he wasn't kicked out. But why was he perfected? So the way for a monk to become a perfect monk is to fall asleep with an erection and be lucky enough, I guess. Anyway, okay. A woman seeing him sat down on him, having taken her pleasure, stood laughing nearby. The monk, waking up, spoke thus to this woman. "Have you done this?" "Yes, I have," she said. On account of this, he was remorseful. "Monk, did you consent?" "I did not know, Lord," he said. "Monk, there is no offense, as you did not know." Now, at that time, a certain monk was laying down, resting against a tree, having gone into the great wood at Vesali for the day's sojourn. A certain woman, seeing him, sat down on him. The monk got up hastily. On account of this, he was remorseful. "Monk, did you consent?" "I did not consent, Lord." "Monk, there is no offense, as you did not consent." Now at that time a certain monk was lying down, resting against a tree, having gone into the great wood at Vesali for the day's sojourn. A certain woman, what is up with the women in Vesali in the 6th century BCE? What's up with that? Anyway, a certain woman, seeing him, sat down on him. The monk, rising quickly, knocked her over. It says that the monk, rising suddenly, giving a kick, knocked her over in such a way that she rolled onto the ground. All right. The monk, rising quickly, knocked her over. On account of this, he was remorseful. "Monk, did you consent?" "I did not consent, Lord." "Monk, there is no offense, as you did not consent." Now, at that time, a certain monk in the gabled hall in the great wood at Vesali. Well, if it's the great wood at Vesali, then we all know what's probably going to happen. Anyway, a great wood at Vesali for the day's sojourn was laying down, having opened the door. Right? All his limbs were stiff with pains. Now at that time a large company of women, bringing scents and garlands, came to the park, looking at the vihara. Vihar means wandering, wanderer. Bihar is a form of vihar, and the vihara, I think, is like the little hut that the monks built, if I understand from context. Then these women, seeing that monk, sat down on him, having taken their pleasure, and saying, "Isn't he a bull of a man?" B-U-L-L. Female, a male cow, a male guy. The guy means cow in Hindi. Anyway, departed, piling up their scents and garlands. The monks, seeing the moisture, told this matter to the Lord. He said, "Monks, there is no offense for this monk. I allow you, monks, when you are in seclusion for meditation during the day, to meditate in seclusion, having closed the door." Okay, so yeah, Buddha's saying close your door so that you don't get raped by women in your sleep. Right. Now, at that time, a certain monk of Pārājika, having dreamed that he committed sexual intercourse with his former wife, said, "I am not a true recluse. I will leave the order." And going up to Pārājika and seeing the Venerable Upali on the road, he told him this matter. The Venerable Upali said to him, "There is no offense, Your Reverence, since it was in a dream." Another loophole. All right, so scattered bones is okay. In a dream is okay. With a wooden doll, watch out for splinters, but it's okay. There's a wrongdoing. And if you... Okay. Now at that time, the Rajagaha, we're almost done, the Rajagaha, there was a female lay follower called Suttavibhaṅga who believed in the Enlightened One. she held this view. Whatever woman gives sexual intercourse gives the highest gift. She's a little ahead of her time. If she had only been born about 1,200 years later. Anyway, seeing a monk, she spoke thus, quote, "Come, honored sir, indulge in sexual intercourse," end quote. "Not so, sister, it is not fitting," he said. "Come, honored sir, only touch the region of the breasts. Thus there will be no offense for you. Come, honored sir, only touch the navel, ... the stomach, ... the waist, the throat, the ear, the coil of hair, the spaces between the fingers. Come, honored sir, approaching me only with your hands, I will make you function. Thus there will be no offense for you," end quote. The monk acted accordingly. So, yeah, it sounds reasonable. On account of this, he was remorseful. "Monk, there is no offense involving defeat. There is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order," end quote. All right. Now at that time, at Savatthi was a female lay disciple called Sadha, who believed in the enlightened one. She held this view: whatever woman gives sexual intercourse gives the highest gift. Seeing a monk, she spoke thus: "Come, honored sir, indulge in sexual intercourse." "Not so, sister, it is not fitting." "Come, honored sir, touch the region of the breasts." "Come, honored sir, approaching me only with your hands, I will make you function. Thus there will be no offense for you." The monk acted accordingly. On account of this, he was remorseful. Quote, "Monk, there is no offense involving defeat. There is an offense entailing a formal meeting of the order." All right. Now at that time, at Vesali, some Lichavi youths, taking hold of a monk, made him commit sin with a nun. Both agreed, then both should be expelled. Neither agreed, there was no offense for either. Now at that time, at Vesali, some Lichavi youths, taking hold of a monk, made him commit sin with a female practitioner, with a female novice. Both agreed, then both should be expelled. Neither agreed, then there was no offense for either. Now at that time, at Vesali, you guys should leave Vesali. I'm just thinking maybe a different region. Maybe people don't act like this. I mean, is there anybody there that is listening to the wisdom of your teachings? Or are they just doing this stuff? Anyway, now at that time, at Vesali, some Lichavi youths, taking hold of a monk, made him commit sin with a prostitute, with a eunuch, with a woman householder. The monk agreed, then the monk should be expelled. The monk did not agree, then there is no offense for the monk. Now at that time, at Vesali, some Lichavi youths, taking hold of some monks, made them commit sin with one another. Both agreed, then both should be expelled. Neither agreed, there is no offense for either. Now at that time, a certain monk who had long gone forth went to see his former wife. She said, "Come, honored sir, leave the order," end quote. And she took hold of him. The monk, stepping backwards, fell down on his back. She, bending him up, sat down on him. On account of this, he was remorseful. They told this matter to the Lord. He said, "Monk, did you consent?" I mean, it's such a forward thinking. I mean, even like today or 10 years ago, people would be like, well, if a man has an erection, that's consent, isn't it? No, it's not. And he knew that 2,600 years ago. Pretty cool. I mean, it's, not solely grounds for calling someone an enlightened person, but anyway. I did not consent, Lord. He said, there is no offense, monk, as you did not consent. Now, at that time, a certain monk, we're almost done, like literally this is the end. Now, at that time, a certain monk dwelt in the jungle. A young deer, the animal, coming up, made the monk consent to what it wanted to do. On account of this, he was remorseful. He told this matter to the Lord. He said, you, monk, have fallen into an offense involving defeat. Told is the first offense involving defeat. Yay! We're all done with the sexy stuff. I mean, we can move on to other things next time. I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is if you're one of 500 monks and you're called to a formal assembly and you see Lord Buddha up there and you see a monk ashamed and they're like, what did you do? And he's like, I touched a lady's breasts. And then what happened? Well, I gathered all the bones together of a woman I was in love with and I acted inappropriately. And then what did you do? Oh, I was behaving inappropriately while staring at a severed head. Okay, well, we're not kicking you out, but everybody's like, I mean, it seems like there might be one or two monks in there thinking, so I can do these things. And the worst that'll happen is I'll be the one up there bragging about it. Maybe I'm putting too much thought into this or too little. I don't know. But anyway, it was fun. I'll admit most of that was fun in its own way to read. But I am looking forward to moving on to another subject because I think ever since Tipiṭaka Part 4, or we started to learn the story of Sudina the Karana or something like that in episode 3 of Tipiṭaka. So that's a lot of sexy stuff. I mean, it's one of, I think, the 5 main things you can get kicked out for. So it's appropriate that they cover it thoroughly. And apparently there's a need to cover it thoroughly because so many monks are like, oh, but it was a severed head and all I did was touch its mouth. And like coming up with all these like possible loopholes. So Buddha has to say, that's a loophole, that's not a loophole. They didn't mention watermelon. I think that it's probably fine. So you're okay. I see you. Okay, thank you, Lord Buddha, and thank you to everybody else who joined us in the beginning today. And do check out that video about that third religion. It lasted until medieval times, and then it kind of fizzled out. So there was Mahavir, Lord Buddha, and a third guy. Check out that video. Let me know in the comments if you think that my whole theory about, with the 25 readings from the Jain Sutras, the theory that was based on is completely disproven or not. And I will let you know my thoughts in episode 8. All right. Let us close in the usual manner with the prayer that my father taught me when I was very young. To the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, to the spirits of light among us and to the spirits below, we send out our reverent love and compassion. May all beings be happy. May all beings be serene. May all beings be in peace. Until next time.